Hello and welcome to Shardcast, the Brandon Sanderson podcast on the 17th Shard. I am your host, Kerry.
I'm Ian.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Ben, aka Overlord Jebus.
And he's coming on for the first time, you guys. Welcome,
Woo!
Ben.
Yay! We recently spiked him. Yay!
Thank you very much for having me on. I'd just like to say it's pronounced nail, not nale. Thanks.
That's true. It is. It actually is. It is.
Hashtag Team Nail.
Yeah.
Hashtag Team Nail.
I'm gonna stick with Nale.
Well, as long as you're okay with being wrong.
Yeah.
I don't care. Brandon doesn't say things correctly, so I'm fine.
Yeah, like
saying things
adium.
wrong. No,
I mean,
he says adium correctly. He says elantris wrong.
He has explicitly said that Serene's name is supposed to be Serene, but he likes Serene better, so he broke his own pronunciation rules.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, I mean, none of the Aeonic pronunciations make any sense, so that's fine with me.
It was his first published book. It's fine.
He was being clever with linguistics, and in Stormlight it's better with linguistics.
So you guys, Oathbringer is out. In fact, it is very much out, as in it is the number 1 on the New York Times bestseller list.
Oh yeah.
Woo.
That's very exciting. Yeah.
And it's like number 6 in the British charts.
Nice. It's like
mean...
people like Brandon Sanderson or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's which is good because it's, as we said a while ago, it's awesome. Short story. And everyone's favorite chapter is exactly the one I expected it to be. The Dalinar one.
Well, if it's not your favorite chapter, what are you doing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Alex's was Renarin POVs, but...
It also, mine wasn't that one.
Well, you know what, man? That's totally fine, because there's so much awesome to go around.
Yeah. But we're not talking about the Dalinar episode, good lord. We're not talking about the Dalinar chapter this episode.
We could probably make a Dalinar one.
We could make an entire episode.
We probably will.
But for now, we're going to be talking about the Unmade.
Bum,
Yes.
bum, bum.
And the Part 4 Epigraphs. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Freaky Eldritch monstrosities. What's
Yeah,
not to love?
Did you expect that we'd just get so many Unmade in this book? I didn't.
No.
On top of everything else at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just...
Like, we got how many on screen? I think 5 of the 9
5.
were just straight up on screen. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that much.
No. It's like, do you know what book 3 needs? How about we just have 5 of the Unmade that are mentioned in like death rattles and like twice otherwise? Cool. Let's just do that in this book.
I was very happy whilst going through the book and looking at the epigraphs, and in part 2, the Mythica gets mentioned, and then you look over the first page of part 3, and it's a quote from Mythica, and I was like, yes.
Yeah, but if you actually Stormlight books are plotted as a trilogy, and it works especially with this book because with each of those individual books, the climax deals with an Unmade, and it's so good.
Oh, yeah. I somehow did not notice that.
That's the beautiful thing about the structure of the book. That's why it couldn't be split, because you get that whole arc and you get the whole Dalinar arc. But it is about these 3 parts of Unmade with the Erythru, with Re-Shafir. The pronunciation's going to be really fun on this one, guys.
Koldanar and Ashert Marn. And then Thalen City and
Nurgle.
Yeah, that. The thrill.
And then Siana and Yelignar are thrown in there too.
Yeah, for fun.
So while we're dealing with the pronunciation as well, can we just talk for a quick second about how Brandon has done a really linguistically neat thing here, in that by making the Unmade's names not really follow any of the naming conventions we've seen on Roshar so far, it adds to that feeling of unnaturalness about them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, the moment we learn a few of those back in, the death rattles, they are so very Lovecraftian inspired, that kind of alien otherworldliness. And I picked up on it straight away, and I'm so happy that they are just as alien and Lovecraftian as they appeared to be.
Oh yeah, Midnight Mother was like, whoa.
But this is going way back to like before Words of Radiance, but like a lot of like probably all of the Unmade, but we haven't figured it out for all of them. The Unmade names are actually like modifications on like real world entities. Like Nergal is Nurgle.
Oh, okay.
Moloch is Moloch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can't remember a lot of the other ones, but it was like seeing how like this all goes. It's just like the inspiration Brendan takes from the real world. It makes it feel that much more real. Because it's like we're like familiar with these names, and it's like, oh no, that's a creepy thing. This sounds like that creepy thing. This must be a creepy thing.
Yeah.
I think it's so weird how, like, they're not all hyphenated, but most of them are hyphenated. And I don't really know why. Like,
I don't think any of them are hyphenated in the same way as well. You know, we've got like Bar Adamistram, and then we've also got Digonarthis, who have both got very different types of hyphenation.
Most just have one hyphen. Ba Adamishram's unique in that it has 3 pieces to it.
Yeah.
So I had a shower thought the other day that maybe like Ba Adamishram was 3 things creepily converged together or something, and that's why things are hyphenated. I don't know, but I feel like the hyphenation is significant in some way. I don't know what way that actually is, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how sold I am on that.
It's a thought, and a lot of, that's the thing, is like theories and such like that don't just emerge fully thought out and cited and all of that.
No.
They start out as you standing in front of your fridge getting some leftover spaghetti and going, huh.
That hyphenation's gotta be important in some way, because like they're called the Unmade, and it's not just a cool name for a thing that has to matter somehow, I think.
Yeah, they are twisted beings, and it would be really interesting to see what they were twisted from.
They were made, and then they were unmade.
Yeah. Like my crack theory is that like they were originally the Dawn Shards, and Odium twisted them somehow.
Oh,
I don't know how sold I am.
I don't like that. I don't like that.
Like I said, it's a crack theory that like I like it, but like I don't know if it's true.
I don't know. I know in Oathbringer it says they're Spren, but I like the idea that maybe some did not start as Spren. That some could be some sort of singers that are just like maybe before the fused came into being, that is just like some really warped thing, and Odium's like, well, I mean, that wasn't quite what I was going for, but
that we'll get to when we talk about the Unmade later on in the podcast.
Well, I mean, yes, that's true. That's true. We will be talking about that.
And keep in mind also, like, they're described as Spren, but they're described by people who don't really know how to describe them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, if you were a native Rosharan and you were, learning about the Unmade, it's pretty normal to come to the conclusion that these are some kind of Spren or Spren-like being, just because that's your worldview. That's the lens you're looking at all this through.
Yeah. Brennan has actually commented on that. Like, Spren is very much like Rosharan's, like, it's a piece of investiture that is alive. Like, that's what
very
Rosharans
vague.
view it as. And it's like, so like Rosharans would probably call a shard a Spren. Probably would have called Adenalsium a Spren.
Probably would call Seons Spren.
Oh,
yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure.
It'd be kind of like the real world equivalent of like ghosts, where it's like we have all these different words for things, but then we mostly just call them ghosts,
Mm-hmm.
So, Mythica.
Yes.
Oh, we get quotes from Part 4 on the Unmade in Mythica, which is, I think, a modern day person, because he mentions Yasna, so
Yes.
Hessi's modern. She? Oh, I wasn't paying attention.
Well, it's somebody writing a book.
That makes sense. Well, That's true.
Real world bias, Eric.
Sorry, we don't have a gender neutral pronoun in English, man.
Yeah, we do. It's called they.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And I do use it, but anyway.
So we have this scholar, this person, writing about the Unmade.
So, from page 3 of Mythica, my research into the Unmade has convinced me that these things were not simply spirits of the void or 9 shadows who moved in the night. They were each a specific kind of spren endowed with vast powers. And from page 4, I have done my best to separate fact from fiction, but the two blend like mixing paint when the Voidbringers are involved. Each of the Unmade has a dozen names, and the powers ascribed to them range from the fanciful to the terrifying.
And they are terrifying.
Yes. Do we want to continue?
I could read page 7.
Okay.
I should point out that although many personalities and motives are ascribed to them, I'm convinced that the Unmade were still spren. As such, they were as much manifestations of concepts or divine forces as they were individuals. So that kind of gets that. They're pretty sure they're spren, but I don't know. I'm not convinced. Who knows?
It does make it sound like they really do believe that they are basically just spren, as equivalent to all other spren.
Sure.
Or at least Hesse does.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. Like this was written before the True Desolation. Like they don't really have any extra knowledge than like digging through old tales. So who knows what actually happened? As we knew with the Recreants and the Desolations, there are mysteries upon mysteries. So,
and the book does do a good job, though, especially in Oathbringer, of showing us like different tiers of spren, so to speak. Right? Like, you have all of these wind spren showing up and these honor spren watching Bridge 4, and there's obviously like a big boss spren with them.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember her name. It's got it written down somewhere.
Yeah, the true spren and the sub spren are.
We got that one as well.
The Stormfather uses.
Yep.
But like these are, the Unmade would be a like step above even true spren.
Yes.
Like, these are like not necessarily on the same tier as the Stormfather, but
like somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. I'd put them at like Herald level.
Yeah.
If, you know.
I mean, they've existed for more than 4,500 years, and like
I was gonna say it's Fenderana was the leader among the honor spren that were watching Bridge 4. Did we want to do that last quote about all of the Unmade? From page 12, the most important point I wish to make is that the Unmade are still among us. I realize this will be contentious, as much of the lore surrounding them is intertwined with theology. However, it is clear to me that some of their effects are common in the world, and we simply treat them as we would the manifestations of other spren. She is right on the money with that.
Well, I mean, by part 4, that gets very obvious. But it's nice to, like, if you haven't been paying attention, then these epigraphs are like, what are these? I don't understand what's going on. So it's actually important exposition that we can put here.
But like this is something that Shallan points out at the end of part 1, which is like, what's the word she uses? Like they'd be considered normal to us. Like,
yeah, which is creepy that they've just been around the whole time. Nothing could possibly go wrong with that at all.
Like the ones that aren't trapped are just hanging around with everyone else.
Yeah, and I mean, and we see that later on in the book when we realize what some of the Unmade are doing. It's like, oh, this was referenced in the first chapter of The Way of Kings.
Yes.
Yeah. The thrill especially, and the death rattles, those have been so pervasive through everything. The other ones, less so, but I imagine as we see more, I'm sure it's there.
But it makes sense because, like, the death rattles and the thrill, like, both of those spren are sentient, but they're not sapient. Like, you can't have a conversation with them. Like, well, you could. It would just be a very one-sided conversation.
Yeah.
So, like, it makes sense that, like, they've just been wandering, like, not really doing much, like, as far as, like, Odium is concerned. They're not really, like, doing some, like, dastardly plan. They're just chilling, basically, on Roshar, doing their thing.
And so then Mythica just goes in and talks about each Unmade.
Yeah. Which one are we doing first, then?
Yelignar.
Yep.
Yes.
I mean, the next one is just Yelignar.
Yep. So from page 26 of Mythica, Taxel mentions Yelignar named Blightwind in an oft-cited quote, though Jasna Kholin has famously called its accuracy into question. I believe it.
But by the way, it's actually supposed to be Traxel, not Taxel. That's actually a typo.
Okay.
Oops.
Yeah, because the Way of Kings one, that's referencing one of Yasna's notes in Way of Kings, and it's actually Traxel.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and from page 27 of Mythica, Yelignar had great powers, perhaps the powers of all surges compounded in one. He could transform any Voidbringer into an incredibly dangerous enemy. Curiously, 3 legends I found mention swallowing a gemstone to engage this process. Which
we see directly.
Happens.
Yeah.
Yep, that is what happens, and Amarum does do that. And
Isudin does it too.
Yeah, and I guess they have all the surges in one. That's terrifying, and also very unique considering, like, it seems like getting only 2 surges at once is kind of important generally. So that's pretty crazy, actually.
It's very strange how we have an Unmade linked to the surges as well. And so, the surges are very much of honor, or, well, they're not all of honor, but the way that they're accessed on Roshar is of honor. So it's strange that Odium has a way of, or rather one of Odium's Unmade has a way of accessing all of those surges.
Well, the surges are more fundamental than shards, I would say, because the fused use surges, and apparently when the humans came to Roshar, the singers called them surges. So
that is
even
true.
though it probably wasn't surge binding in the formal sense, it was like this voidy thing because they were of Odium, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's more fundamental.
Yes.
I do like the very clever turn of phrase here with he could transform any Voidbringer into an extremely dangerous enemy.
Yeah.
But we never see him do that with a singer.
No. Oh, that's really good, because this is really early in Part 4, actually, and you would have literally seen Aesidon do that.
Oh wow! Yeah, you would have just seen it that happen with a human, and then it says mentioned Voidbinders, and it's like,
That's cool.
Like, I wonder, like, would a singer have to, like, swallow a gemstone, or would they just use their own gem heart?
I think that is answered with the fused.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the fused would be, just kind of this cognitive entity.
Oh, you just
fusing
take
with
a
someone,
common
and then-
singer and just slap Yelignar in there, maybe.
But I wonder why he picks humans to do it instead of singers then.
Yeah. That's...
Yeah.
That's
The other thing...
These are good questions right here.
Well, if the Unmade are of Odium, and Odium was the god of the original humans to come into Roshar, it makes sense that Yelignar would be turning the humans into dangerous enemies to fight the native people of the land that they're essentially invading.
That also indicates...
Well, I don't think the original invasion was violent, necessarily.
Well, no, but I'm talking about when it became violent.
Yeah.
Okay, you think the Unmade were about even during that very first desolation?
I guess. That's what I was just going to say. That's like, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, humans did... Apparently, you can just swallow a gemstone and get Yelignar's power, so I do think that does refer to really old Voidbringers, so the Unmade could be very, very, very old.
It could be, too, that like, the whole process of the Unmade being unmade is part of what triggered the desolations in the first place.
Maybe.
True.
You know,
pretty bad.
you create the thrill, and then you stick it in a bunch of humans, and boom, they're shoving out of Shinovar trying to fight everything that moves.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a very easy way for, it's just like Odium saying, well, you know, I'm not doing it. It's just these 9 things doing this. Don't worry, honor and cultivation. I'm definitely not directly screwing you over here. It's just these 9 things that I directly made, but you know, whatever.
Yeah.
We also know that there were humans fighting alongside the singers during all of the desolations. So
all the desolations, yeah. That's true. You could just give Yelignar to one of the random humans in the Voidbringer army, yeah. Voidbringer's a very vague term.
Yeah. Do we think Yelignar can only do this with one person at a time, or could you have like an army
I do. I think that Yelignar is one of these individual Unmade. You know, we get we've kind of got these 2 classifications from the Mythica of force and individuals. And I think he's an individual because I think he is actually the shadowy Spren that we see hanging out with Odium at that last battle. He's mentioned that he's with a shadowy spin quite a few times from Venli, and then after he possesses Amaram, no one ever mentions this shadowy Spren again.
I think it's an individual thing, that it's like, here's this powerful weapon, you get all the surges, but only one person in your army gets it.
Yeah,
I think
makes sense.
Whereas like the thrill that are more like widespread, you can affect more things, but less specifically, maybe. That's like,
but also even with the thrill, it can only be in one place at a time.
Yeah, it's still in like a general area. It doesn't like go everywhere. They're very powerful spread.
It would be curious to know how wide the area is, because from the sounds of it, it was over all of Alethkar for like hundreds, maybe thousands of years. And so it'd be interesting to know, like, he's very focused at the end at Thaylen City, but apparently it was just an Alethi thing that he's just in Alethkar all this time.
It might vary. Like, they might be able to spread themselves out thinner for a wider AoE, and then concentrate for a more powerful effect. Because you don't always see it as extreme as it was in some of the Dalinar flashbars.
That is certainly true. It's a lot more general. Also, it's possible that the Alethi, like, if they know the thrill's there, sometimes some people might attribute something to the thrill that it actually wasn't, because it is a localized thing, and you wouldn't really know, because you don't really know the mechanics of why this is happening. And sometimes it's just like, no, I'm a crazy person, I'm killing people. And other times it could be the thrill, right?
Yeah.
It's the placebo effect.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly.
Or like berserks, like that's like a thing that happened in our world. Like, makes sense.
Where they just work themselves up into a rage and
and like maybe the thrill's at Kolinar, and then he's on this battlefield and this battlefield, and you wouldn't know that. And so it'd be kind of random, and it is kind of random when you read when people feel the thrill and when they don't, really. So sometimes people feel it, sometimes people don't. But it could be that it could spread itself out a lot further and just be very general, kind of like how Ruin actually does things in like a super general sense over a wide area, but probably like not as extreme. But that could be like the similar idea.
So we have one more quote from Mythica about Yelignar. From page 53. Yelignar is said to consume souls, but I can't find a specific explanation. I'm uncertain this lore is correct.
Rip Aesidon.
I'm pretty sure
dead.
It's correct or very close to it.
She's pretty toast, I think.
Yeah.
I did not think we'll see her again.
We definitely see this with Amaram. Like, the gemstone in his chest was growing, and he was like transforming.
Well, so, his chest caving in, and he's replacing his organs, and
So like this might be like the price for bonding Yelignar. Like, yes, he can grant you this phenomenal power, but it's going to consume your soul.
Yes.
Much like Nightblood can do a whole awful lot, but if you are not feeding him with investiture, like, he's going to eat your soul.
Yeah. It does kind of go along with the kind of the whole theme of the way the magics work in the Cosmere of all pretty much all extra power given to humans comes at a cost of some way, whether it's, bad experiences in their life, that kind of thing. It all comes at a cost. But yeah, Aswaden's just definitely toast.
Super toast, which is a shame because she's pretty awesome.
Yeah. She was interesting.
She was the wackadoodle. Like,
I know. It was great. Amazing character. Love her. Just like Milash. Great characters, guys. So
one last thing about Yelagnar transforming people. Don't you find it odd that he transforms them into something that looks very much like a singer with the carapace and the kind of, not human? He doesn't make them all squishy. He makes them all
See?
singery.
What if Yelagnar was a singer at one point?
Exactly.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that make sense? And is just really weird or corrupted. I don't know. It doesn't have to be the case.
No.
It
could.
I'm not even sure.
From the time when the singers were the majority of the population.
Yeah, because those would look like singers, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because the more people thinking on Roshar would think they would see it as singers rather than.
Well, Syl explicitly says this when she says that Spren used to have the 4 genders, and we kind of generally assume that means that the spirit used to embody the kind of the singer way of looking at the world instead of the human way of looking at the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like cognitive impressions are important.
Yes.
They're
There's
very
also the fact that,
important.
Roshar is very crustacean based, so Yelagnar could just be drawing on that.
Yeah, and also just something that number 1 is more suited to the environment that you're going to be fighting in, and number 2, hey, carapace, armor, you're basically growing armor for whoever you're empowering.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about Janat?
Yeah.
Which is apparently how you say it, not Janat.
How Brandon says it.
Well, that's true. That's true. But
Janat, just.
I like it's gonna
Sianat.
It's gonna take some practice. We'll probably have a full podcast on this one, but let's talk about it. So, of the Unmade, Janat was most
page
feared.
89.
Page 89. Of the Unmade, Janat was most feared by the Radiants. They spoke extensively of her ability to corrupt Spren, though only lesser Spren, whatever that means.
I like how the author here is just
I have no idea what that means.
Lesser Spren.
The Radiants haven't come back yet. They don't really know what that means. So,
as far as Hessie's concerned, Spren or Spren.
Yeah. He hasn't gone to. She hasn't gone to Shadesmar.
No.
Nice. And Janat hadn't been able to enlighten. That's what she says. Oathgate Spren before, but in Kholinar, she is. So
which is
that's a
curious.
New power. Yeah, but I think we kind of talked last week how it's pretty clear that Janat probably corrupted Radiant Spren before.
I would not agree.
Well, there was that one emerald that said, "I foresaw this." That was a Truth Watcher.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's just like Renarin. It's totally possible that was the case.
Yes, but that wasn't a normal thing.
No,
Also,
I'm not saying
is that somebody saying I had a vision of this and somebody being I told y'all this would happen.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to happen. Because Truth Watchers, if you're paying attention to what's going on, you're probably going to be able to connect the dots and figure out XYZ is probably going to happen.
Well, the quote there was that Truth Watcher was very scared to even mention it because they did not want to even talk about it, so they put it in a tiny emerald in the same drawer where the entire Strike Force things were, in drawer 30-20. They just hid it there in a tiny emerald.
But also keep in mind, that's the end of the Radiance. And after that point, there were no more people bonding.
That's
I
true.
Do not
you wouldn't
think
have many
Janat
people
was able to corrupt Radiant Spren until the very, very end, if that.
Okay,
Okay.
that's
It was
fair.
not a normal thing.
If you don't think that
That's
Syanut can corrupt Radiant Spren, what do you think is happening with Gliss and Renarin?
Oh,
Well,
no,
that's
I
a new
absolutely, like, she can
Okay.
do it now. She just
Okay.
couldn't do it then.
That's fair
Yeah.
enough. Also, was she present on the Shattered Plains? Because she was if she corrupted Gliss, and that's when Renarin bonded Gliss. Or
I mean, Renarin lived for a long time in Kholinar. I mean, Spren watched their person they're bonding with for a long time.
Very
Like,
true.
I don't know, like, how close they need to be in the physical for her to touch those Spren. I don't know.
And it's entirely possible that, like, Gliss was the one that was bonded to, like, the Truth Watcher thousands of years ago that foresaw this. So, like, he's still the first one.
Could be the same Spren.
Oh, that would actually be super
Yeah.
crazy. Whoa. That'd be super crazy. Oh, and there's only one more about Janat. But there's so much to say because we see her in the text, but only two in Mythica. Lore, page 90. Lore suggested leaving a city if the Spren there start acting strangely. Curiously, Janat was often regarded as an individual when others, like Moloch or Ashurtmarn, were seen as forces. And we certainly do see her be an individual, for sure.
Yeah, you
She's
can
definitely-
have a conversation with her.
Yeah, right, exactly. Are they saying, in this quote, I've always wondered about this, are they saying just abandon the city forever, or just, like, temporarily abandon the city until Janat moves away? Because abandoning a city seems very extreme.
It seems very extreme, because if you think about it, corrupted Spren, just having the Spren doing something a little bit different, that's not in itself a big risk. Like, what's the risk of having, your Pain Spren looking a bit creepy instead of looking like normal hands?
It doesn't sound like a big risk,
No.
but apparently it's very fearsome that, like, something's very wrong. Janat's
Because
here in
it's
the
a
city.
sign of, like, yes, Janat is there. Like, what other Unmade are there?
She's
Yes.
kind of a... But then I was going to say what would be the point in her presence, but the point of her presence would be her corrupted Spren on the Shadesmar side of things. They would be, defending the Shadesmar side of things from the normal Spren. So it kind of makes sense that she's almost the force on the Shadesmar side of things that, protects the other Unmade, maybe. Maybe?
Yeah, what do desolations look like in Shadesmar? Like, that's great. Whoa. I imagine we'll see more. I hope.
But, like,
that sounds
I
awesome.
see this as, like, the corrupted Spren are, like, acting as a canary in a coal mine, basically.
Yes.
It's, like, it's the thing, like, hey, we can tell when that is happening. That means something else we don't want to deal with is going to happen, so we should get out of here.
Yeah.
I
It
sure
in
don't.
itself is not an issue, but it's indicative of things that could be an issue.
Yeah.
I certainly don't think that they would abandon the cities forever because there's the Dawn cities happen. They've always been around. Like,
Yeah.
you're not just gonna leave the city forever, especially when Shardblades are so rare. You can't just, like, rebuild a city. That's really hard for the
Like,
olden
I don't think
peoples.
it's forever. It's just, like, while there are corrupted Spren, you don't go there.
Yeah.
And when
Don't
there's
go
normal
there.
Spren, you go back.
Go to Urethru when you see weird Spren in your city with an Oathgate. Just get the crap out of there.
That's also, like, they could be potentially worried about her being able to corrupt the Oathgate Spren. Like, even though she hasn't been able to do it until now, there's probably a Radiant or 10 who thought, you know what, she might eventually be able to do this. Let's put some
and-
precautionary procedures in place.
And corrupt the Radiant Spren. We don't really want to go near there, so we're going to take this very seriously because Spren are kind of important to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, sure, it's never happened before. There's a first time for everything. As
Yeah.
we see in this book, first single Surge Binder.
Yeah.
Well, also,
They
when
will
we
build
get
a
to
bridge.
Ba Ada Mishram, which I'm very excited about, like, Ba Ada Mishram did something new that the Radiants were completely surprised by.
Yeah. I've got a couple
So-
of... I mean, we could spend a long time on Syahanat, so I don't know how much
Yeah,
more I
we-
can say,
we-
because I've got loads written for her.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get you back on for this. episode.
That'd be good.
Oh, that's going to be a popular podcast because you know Feather's going to be one. Alex definitely wants to be on that. It's like there's Renarin. Oh, I think she will
Fight to the
rage.
death between
yeah,
Jebus
basically,
and Alex.
basically, pretty much.
We've only argued a few times. That doesn't know what you're on about.
No, they're fine. They're fine.
We argue because we love each other and we are passionate.
Exactly.
That's why we're
Very
on the
passionate.
podcast.
We're very passionate about pronunciation and many other things.
So, moving on to Naragul?
Nergal.
No, go well.
The thrill.
Yeah.
I don't have to
thrill.
read this one. I did the last one.
All right.
So from page 121, Nergal was known for driving forces into a battle rage, lending them great ferocity. Curiously, he did this to both sides of a conflict, Voidbringer and human. This seems common of the less self-aware spread.
The thrill.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they're just running around blasting a random AoE. They're not selecting their targets usually.
Mhm.
No, it does just look like
Sure.
it's. I wonder how it picks where it goes. If it's just a non-self-aware spren, does it go where fighting
It could
is
just
strongest?
be like a flame spren is attracted to fire.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah,
like,
and
like-
the
It's still sentient to an extent. Like, it's just not sapient. Like,
Yeah.
it's as smart as an animal. So, like,
and let's be honest, the Alethi were kind of chumming the waters there for a while.
Yeah. They're just generally very warlike culture as it is.
they're the
and-
brutes.
Yeah.
yeah. And during, like, the Desolations, I'm sure, like, Odium was probably Odium's favorite axe hound. Just going where he wanted.
It's like you're
Yeah.
gonna go at this battle. I mean, who knows how active Odium could be in the Desolations? Probably
Probably very
Probably
active.
very.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably very, yeah.
If he, like, shows up for, like, a battle. at the end of
In
the trailer, like,
person.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're probably not going to see that in the next book because he can't face Dalinar. So,
No.
like, how much restrictions did he have when the Oath Pact was there and Honor was alive? Like, that, you know, that it's
Yeah.
not a sure thing, right?
That's true. Like, I'm sure, like, Baido Mishram, like, handled a lot of
Oh,
the
she handled
un-
it.
So speaking of the Alethi, we have another quote from page 140. I am convinced that Neragul is still active on Roshar. The accounts of the Alethi thrill of battle align too well with ancient records, including visions of red mist and dying creatures. That's... You can't get more plain than that.
No, it's straight up
Dalinar
saying.
captured the thrill at the end of the book, guys. If
Yep.
you didn't figure it out, like, it's that Unmade, he imprisoned it.
Yeah.
And it's he's like the only one that really could have, like, even setting aside like the fact that he's a bondsmith, like he like dealt with the thrill for decades. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
he knows the thrill knows him.
Oh, that's actually a really good thing about Baido Mishram. I'm gonna
Yeah.
We'll get
By the
to
way,
him
thank-
eventually, Eric.
Thanks for that, Odium. Like, that made it a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? It very easily could have been that Dalinar became Odium's champion. Like, you were
Oh, we were this close. This close.
so close. It was really close. Like, you really believed it, and that's what made the triumph so good. But,
Yeah.
but like,
if cultivation hadn't intervened,
oh,
Yeah.
for sure, 100%.
Absolutely.
Or like, even if it was like maybe like 3 weeks before, like Dalinar needed to grow just enough to figure it out. Like,
Yep.
Yeah.
if it didn't come back soon enough, then it could have just happened. Because if
but like if it happened too soon, Odium wouldn't have done that ploy.
I'm sure he could just have, like restored the memories to Dalinar. Like, that
Well,
probably wouldn't have been that hard to.
No, he's saying if the memory came back soon enough that Dalinar could become completely at peace with it.
Yeah, Odium couldn't
yeah.
have like tried like what he did at the climax. Like,
Right.
he wouldn't have thought that would have succeeded.
Right, totally. I was thinking like before that, like if it was like very soon,
Yeah.
after him remembering or not even remembering, Odium probably could have
Yeah.
This is what happened. Here's what happened, and just restore that memory. So Dalinar
But
had
like
to grow
Odium
just
is a showman. Like he wanted it like at
Yeah.
that moment.
Yeah,
To like
for sure.
completely crush Dalinar.
It's a good.
So-
It's a good plan, unlike
Yeah.
many other terrible plans that have occurred in Stormlight Archive.
Yeah.
Cough, Sons of Honor, terrible plan as always. Just
But that also like perfectly fits cultivation. Like
Yep.
that's totally like something cultivation would do. Like plan something out just so like no one could tell what she was doing, but like it still worked perfectly.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving on to Moloch. On page 143, Moloch is very similar to Nergal, though instead of inspiring a battle rage, he supposedly granted visions of the future. In this, lore and theology align. Seeing the future originates with the Unmade and is from the enemy. And then from page 144, Moloch was said to grant visions of the future at different times, but most commonly at the transition point between realms, when a soul was nearing the Tranquiline Halls.
Yeah, and that one is interesting because it kind of implies that it could be at other times as well.
Mm-hmm.
which would be new.
Yes.
Yeah, we haven't seen that, but now that a desolation is afoot,
Yeah.
Yeah, more direct control from Odium. Like, man, that would be really weird if like other intense emotions like snapping kind of thing just
Yeah.
gives you a death rattle, and that'd be weird.
That would be.
it would be. But like, what other kind of points would it be for it to be that common?
Uh,
Well, transition point between realms. Maybe when somebody's world hopping?
Maybe.
It could be, but there's another quote about, I think it's actually from it's from the diagram, which talks about Moliak uses the power of the soul breaking apart is what fuels the
yeah.
death rattle.
Well,
So it sounds
so
like
it could be like a particularly destructive moment, like maybe not Kaladin, but something like happened to Kaladin to someone else. Maybe that could have done it too for
Yeah.
a death rattle, if it doesn't always occur at death or something. I don't know. But the diagramists, they don't know everything.
Yeah.
No, they
No.
do not.
I'm surprised they learned so much about the Unmade that doesn't. But sure, cool, Teravangian. You can
Yeah.
do it.
Mhm. But like death rattles are just fascinating, and like how like the exact mechanism fascinates me.
I want to see more death rattles. I really want to see more death rattles. I miss death rattles.
Me too. But it's like the like soul breaking apart. Probably like there's like Investor being released at that point. And it's probably very similar to like Yelignar consuming the soul, though it's more of like a passive event.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I can see
when,
that.
when a soul
Yelignar is
breaks,
like-
it's easier to get other stuff coming in.
Yeah, because like Yelignar like breaks the soul and like consumes it, whereas like Moloch is just hanging around waiting for it to happen on its own time and just taking advantage of it.
Yeah.
Do you want to do this next one, Ben?
Yeah, go on then. So page 170. Many cultures speak of the so-called death rattles that sometimes overtake people as they die. Tradition ascribes them to the Almighty, but I find too many of them seemingly prophetic. This will be my most contentious assertion, I am sure, but I think they are the effects of Moliak. Persisting in our current times, proof is easy to provide. The effect is regionalized and tends to move across Roshar. This is the roving of an Unmade.
And that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. But I think, that's actually raised a good point. So we were talking about how Nergal kind of may be attracted to the Alethi because they're very warlike culture, and so, that's what attracted it. So what would attract Moliak?
A lot of
Like,
death.
Maybe.
A lot of death. I mean, is around
Like a
in the
plague.
Lefkar.
Yeah.
Yeah. But why,
I mean, they're
why go into the Horneater Peaks? Because that's where
Yes.
Moloch was
Probably
going.
because like that's where Odium wants it to go.
Yes.
Okay, that's true. I mean, yeah,
Because like I don't think we can like define like anything that's happening right now as normal.
that's certainly true.
Yes.
That is certainly
Like-
true.
But
Protect
why
the
was it in,
perpendicularity.
yeah, why was it in Carbranth is an interesting one to me. Did Taravangian attract it by, setting up its hospitals of murdering people?
Oh,
Maybe.
Possible.
Maybe.
that is interesting.
Mm-hmm. But it's crazy to think that like this is like a known thing on Roshar. It's like scholars must have like studied the death rattles, and like they still don't think like there's something weird here. Like really, like this is kind of
Does
crazy.
seem
They're
weird.
like, oh, this is just something
Well-
that happens,
Scholars probably didn't study it in the way that Taravangian did to specifically trigger death rattles. So,
Yeah.
like, Taravangian had a pretty good setup that most people would not want to do.
Yes.
Okay, so moving on to Ashertmarn.
Yeah.
From page 203 of Mythica, Ashertmarn, the heart of the revel, is the final of the three great mindless Unmade. His gift to men is not prophecy or battle focus, but a lust for indulgence. Indeed, the great debauchery recorded from the court of Bayala in 480, which led to a dynastic collapse, might be attributable to the influence of Ashertmarn.
So
Yep.
I'm assuming the three great mindless Unmade, spoke about prophecy and battle focus. That is clearly going to be Nergawal
Yep.
and Moliak.
Yep.
On the same level as around, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I always thought that Bayala was related to Baila, and there's other nations in like kind of central Roshar that have that naming
Okay.
Yeah, I'd
syntax.
say that's
so
reasonable.
that kind of have similar names. So I think that's kind of what's going on there. But
Yeah.
man, Ashertmarn's creepy. In Kolinar,
Yes.
that was so creepy.
Oh, yeah.
I was surprised to see that in a Sanderson book too.
That's
Yes,
true.
just-
Like, it was like just the weight of Shallan getting to the Oath Gate, like just absurd
Yes.
power.
Yeah. Like proper Zinch kind of things going on there. Just all that kind of all the excess, just even more excessive. It was great. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that was so weird and creepy, and I did not expect so many Unmade in Kolinar right then.
Yes.
3 of them, like
3 of them, yeah.
jeez.
But like Brendan was once asked like if he would like ever like write any horror, and Brendan was like, if I do, it'd probably be like the cosmic eldritchy horror, and it's like, yep,
Yep.
did.
Yeah, that's what
You
we
did
got.
it.
Yeah.
You did it.
We got that like
Good
3
job.
times in
it
this
was,
book.
It was really creepy. I
Yeah.
think the
Because,
Thrill's
like,
the least
that's
creepy
also
of
like
them.
yeah,
Yeah.
Thrill's the least creepy, but like this is also like the kind of horror I like,
Yes.
because I don't
same.
really like horror, but like this is like the kind of thing like, no, I dig that. That's cool.
It's like a sense of wrongness in a
Mhm.
place that's just
Yeah.
like that slow kind of terror.
Mhm.
Yeah. Did you notice though as well that Ashertmarn kind of had that very much give me your pain, give me your emotions that Odium had at the very end, where it was kind of like it seems to also embody that aspect of Odium that he has, where it's like, I want your emotions, give them to me, I feed off them
Yeah,
in some
no,
way.
absolutely. With
Mhm.
Ashertmarn.
Yeah.
What a name, Ashertmarn.
Yeah.
Ugh. The names are
It's a weird
so
name.
weird, so weird. Oh my god, guys, I am so excited to read the Ba Edo Mishram stuff, which I have thought about many times this month. Like, just thinking about how awesome Ba Edo Mishram is. All right, page 224. I find Ba Edo Mishram to be the most interesting of the Unmade. She is said to have been keen of mind, a high princess among the enemy forces, their commander during some of the desolations. I do not know how this relates to the ancient god of the enemy named Odium. Well, we know how that's related. It's not
Yes.
Odium, but a commander of the Voidbringers. I cannot imagine the Fuse taking orders from something. So Ba Edo Mishram is clearly terrifying. I want to see Ba and Mishram on screen.
Like, this is basically like Odium's terrifying little girl. Like, this is like his offspring. Like
Yes.
his lieutenant, so to speak. Like,
yeah. And let me just read. Page 226. There's very little information about Ba Ada Mishram in more modern times. I can only assume that she, unlike many of them, returned to damnation or was destroyed during Ahar Risham.
Ahartium.
The last desolation. I don't know how to say that word. I don't even know how to spell that word.
It's
Aharietium?
That's not a word. That's not a word. But as we know from the Part 3 epigraphs, what actually happened was not destroyed during the last desolation at all, but near the Recreants during the false desolation, a team of, what Ba Ada Mishram did was connected with the singers and somehow give them forms of power and void light.
Yes, and that's connected with a capital C.
Yeah, it was capital C. Yeah, right, exactly. And
she basically played the role of Odium.
Yeah, just with
Shard.
no fused. With no fused. And the Radiants were surprised by this, so that never happened before. So that was a new thing that Ba Ada Mishram developed. I'm kind of wondering how she even managed to figure out how to do that and why she couldn't do it before. How she could figure it out later.
If there were no fused about, what was she providing void light to?
I can only assume that some of the forms of power require void light. And maybe the method which these forms of power are being distributed require void light to use.
Could be, yeah.
Like we haven't really seen how void light is used, so it's kind of hard to say. But some of the songs in the Listener's Song of Secrets, like Night Form and Decay Form, are very terrifying.
Smoke Form and
yeah, they're really weird. So, like, Envoy Form's pretty mundane comparatively, though very powerful.
Yes.
Connecting and being able to speak with people, that is a very powerful ability, as Dalinar showed, because it's that same kind of spiritual connection thing. But, yeah, so, Radiants, they were like, oh, there's this desolation, we need to end the war. The Parsh, they keep attacking us, and they had a strike team, and Malishi, the only bondsmith of his generation, which was referenced actually in book 2, that he was like, I struck out from my tent. He struck out from his tent and vowed to destroy the Voidbringers, which was related to his specific ability. And we get to see what that was.
Yes.
And they did it, but there was a problem. There's a tiny problem. Tiny problem. When Ba Ada Mishram was connected to all the singers.
Yeah. Well, except for one group.
One group. But, turned them all into Parshmen, stole connection, stole identity.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're all gone.
Because, when, she was captured into this, the gem, the perfect gem.
Presumably.
All the things, she was connected to, was ripped out of the Parshmen, and it took a little bit too much.
Do you reckon she's still trapped?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, she has to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
She would absolutely be playing a role if she was around.
Yeah.
She must be furious.
David, Windrunner, he thinks that Ba Ada Mishram's prison is under Kholinar. He's not here today, but I wanted to lay that theory out because he thinks that that's how Gavilar got Voidlight in the sphere.
Okay.
That's
Ba Ada Mishram provides void light. We definitely know that. So
yeah, makes sense.
And so maybe that's what they're digging for is Ba Ada Mishram's prison. But I just want to see Ba Ada Mishram get freed, being awesome and terrifying. That's what I want.
Yes, yeah.
I want to see that. I want to see the commander of the Voidbringers. Yeah.
I can almost guarantee now that Odium himself cannot turn up to battles. I can almost guarantee he's going to be like, right, I need BAM, and I need them up very quickly. I need them to turn up and lead these battles.
Yeah.
Well, also, there's probably a lot of battles, so
her being freed is absolutely going to happen on screen. if it
Yes.
doesn't happen on screen, like, I will be furious with Brandon. But, like, I just can't wait to, like, read that.
You know what I've thought? I've thought that maybe Ba Edamishram. I've thought about her a lot. Okay. I envision the scene going like this, where they're fighting some enemy. Maybe she looks like a singer. Maybe she appears like a human, but the people don't know, and she's just being awesome. And people are like, "Who are you?" And then she just says, "I'm Ba Edamishram." And anyone who's reading stuff realizes, like, "Oh, that's really bad. Like, way worse than I initially expected." That's what I want.
Like, I always, like, one of, like, my, like, things I want to happen, like, further down is, like, for, like, there to be a grand summit of, like, the, like, alliance, like, but it happened in Shadesmar, so, like, all of, like, the Spren can, like, be around, like, representatives from the Spren kingdoms and stuff can be part of this. And it's like, what if, like, she just, like, shows up there? It's like, yo, you're all going to die. But, like, she doesn't actually do anything. She's just, like, she's just there, and, like, her, like, mere presence is intimidating. And,
Yeah.
because, like, she doesn't need to do anything.
This is the short version. We don't actually know the full extent of her abilities. If she commanded during Desolations, the Fused respect her. The Fused don't respect anything.
No.
At all. Nothing.
Once
So,
again, it points to
I'm
maybe
She's like-
a singer
Right.
origin.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe like the first Fused before Odium figured out how to do it properly or something. I don't know.
Maybe.
Maybe.
If she was a singer.
Yeah. But, like, Baridu Mishram, like, if there's only one Unmade on the level of, like, the Stormfather, like, Baridu Mishram is that Spren.
Yeah,
for
would
that
be.
Unmade.
Yeah.
Like, she's up there. She's at the top of the list.
Yeah.
High Princess. High Princess Ba'Eda Mishram. Oh, I'm gonna abandon the city when Ba'Eda Mishram gets there. For sure. I'm just gonna jump into the ocean. I'll just drown instead. That sounds like a better plan.
I don't do that. There's
Yes.
giant enemy crabs in the ocean.
It's better than Ba'Eda Mishram. She will wreck your crap.
So, moving on to Kimorish.
Chemorish? I don't know.
Chimorish?
It's like Kimorish. I don't know.
I've been saying Chemorish because
Kimorish.
Yeah, all right. I'm down with that. But I don't know. All these print names are weird.
Yeah. From page 231 of Mythica, Kimorish, the Dust Mother, has some of the most varied lore surrounding her. The wealth of it makes sorting lies from truth extremely difficult. I do believe she is not the Night Watcher, contrary to what some stories claim. She's absolutely not the Night
Clearly
Watcher.
not.
Yeah.
Clearly
definitely
not.
not.
What a
Like-
curious comparison, though. I wonder where that came from.
Well, so the people of Bavland, which are kind of near-ish, that's central Roshar, they
Yeah.
swear by the Dust Mother. That's the only time that's appeared
Yes.
thus far.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
well,
like,
Bathland is in, like, Yakaved.
Yeah.
Not quite central.
More central than Yakaved. It's west of Yakaved, isn't it?
yeah, it's,
It's
west of
like
Yakaved.
southwest Yakaved.
Yeah. And that Dust Mother
Okay,
as well.
yeah,
is
all right,
interesting.
yeah. But I mean,
That
that's
Dust-
not really that far. It's in like the same. It's connected to the same mountain range that's connected with the valley. But I mean,
Yeah. It's certainly interesting. I wonder if she's been hanging out in Bavland, because we don't hear anything about really what she does at all, what her abilities,
nothing
what
at all.
nothing at
No.
all. I would like to make an observation I found, which was she's called the Dust Mother, and we obviously have the Dustbringers, and
Yeah.
her name is Chimorish, and the herald of the Dustbringers is Chanarak. And so there's a little bit of
Oh,
a similarity there. And I'm kind of like, I know a lot of people really like their comparisons between the Unmade and the Heralds, and some people think that they are linked, but I think this is by far the strongest link between Heralds and Unmade we've had so far.
I was maybe thinking that maybe the Dustbringers don't like being called Dustbringers because of the Dust Mother.
Ooh,
and
maybe.
it being related to the Unmade, and maybe could be having similar surges, but I mean, the Unmade and surges aren't one-to-one.
Hey guys, do you think the Heralds were the first people to bond Spren?
No, because they didn't bond spread.
They may have done, but then not bothered to continue. I don't know.
Well, because like Spren started bonding people in direct imitation of the Honor Blades.
That's a good point.
So
Yeah.
True.
no.
That was almost a good idea.
Almost. You're nearly there.
Almost.
I mean, I'm sure the Heralds did a great many things over time. They had
Yeah.
lots
Probably.
of time. They had more than 4,500 years. At least
Yes.
6,000 years, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, when they weren't being tortured to death, then.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's just...
Tortured to undeath.
They had a good bond with their torturers, all the Fused. They really
Yeah.
had a rapport. The
They're all
Fused
buddy-buddy
wanted
now,
to
you know.
really destroy them, and the Heralds would not allow that.
Yep.
A good rapport.
So like we like know nothing about Kimorish basically.
Yeah, there's
Absolutely
really not much to
nothing.
say. It's that. It's basically, we know the name, we know the side title, and that's about it.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of different lore, but I would sure like to know about that, Hessie. Sure would love to know more about that lore. Or maybe
But,
this is
like-
Brandon saying, I haven't fully world built this, so, we'll just leave it vague
I did
for now.
see
like-
someone point out as well on the Discord. I cannot remember with life me who it was, who pointed out that it seems that the female Unmade are the ones that are more individuals, and the male Unmade are the ones that seem to be the kind of the emotions or the mindless ones. So the fact that she's the Dust Mother might imply that she's an individual.
I figure like she's like middle tier.
Yeah,
Well,
Like
that's-
I think we see the three great mindless Unmade,
yeah,
and then like we know like Yelignar, Bido, Mishram,
Sure.
Siana are probably like sapient. Like they're
Yeah.
like the top three.
So maybe
Kimorish, Ref Shafir, and probably Daigar and Arthas are like probably somewhere in the middle.
yeah,
More aware than the bottom three, but not as sapient as the top three.
yes.
You know, Ben, it's very
Yeah.
interesting to hear that, because I was just thinking about the difference between the Spren, where Yasna in, Book 2
Yeah.
opens it talking about the categorization of Spren and how some are more related to ideals and some are more related to emotions. And
Yes.
that was kind of
Nature and emotions. you
yeah,
mean?
Yeah.
nature and emotion, right? And that was an honor cultivation split, and so I always kind of interpreted that like the nature ones are less sapient, but
Yeah.
but the Unmade, maybe the female ones are more sapient,
Maybe.
like a
Well,
kind
like
of reverse
Yelignar is
cultivation
male,
thing.
so
Well, yeah, I
No, that's
know it's
true,
not a
yeah.
one-to-one,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
we don't know
And there are, like,
anything
also,
about where
like,
these come
To
from.
be fair, we don't know
cultivation
that.
Spren that are sapient.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
so-
sure, for sure.
Yeah. We don't know if definitely that Yelignar is completely, sapient. We just kind of see him hanging out. He's definitely an individual, but we don't
Mhm.
know whether he is mindless, and a mindless individual who just does what Odium says, whether he's on that kind of
Mhm.
Reshafir level of they have some kind of motions and kind of know what they're doing, but aren't fully there, like Siak, who is definitely fully
Right,
cognizant.
for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
So speaking of Reshafir,
Oh,
Yes.
on page 250 of Mythica, Reshafir, the Midnight Mother, is another Unmade who appears to have been destroyed at a Heretium.
No.
Yeah.
And
Appears to have been.
then appears to have been.
They don't know. They don't know any of these things.
Mhm.
I was thinking though about the recreants. Like, no one would know actually why the recreants occurred, because the thing that makes the Radiants leave their blades, massive destruction after that, huge
Yeah.
chaos like the world hadn't seen since the last Desolation. Really,
Yeah.
Mhm.
no one would know. No
Yeah.
one would know that the singers were lobotomized by the Radiants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, speaking of Reshafir and her imprisonment, When did
Yes.
that happen? I mean,
I
it's got to
feel-
be pre-recreance.
I've
But-
said this before, that I feel like she said that she thought she was the only one trapped, and that she felt isolation and loneliness as the other Unmade escaped while she was trapped. So I think she was the first to be trapped. And so, before any of the others, so this would definitely be pre-recreance if that's when Bard and Mistrum was trapped. So, and also we hear about the Midnight Essences being released during a desolation from the Radiant during the flashback. So it seems that she may have been trapped and then released multiple times during the actual desolations.
Well, maybe
Maybe.
the Rishafir could like give some Midnight Essence to a singer or something to release. Like, we don't really know the mechanics of how
No.
she actually worked, and like, because it seemed like it was mysterious from that flashback. It's like, wow, someone released Midnight Essence. I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean you don't know? It's the Midnight Mother. But like, clearly that's not the case. That like
Yeah.
some random other singer could just do that, because the singers were obviously pervasive
Yeah.
at the time. So
The whole like timeline of like the closing of Urithiru and like the capturing of Reshafir and Baidomishum like is really murky to me.
it's
Yes.
'Cause it feels
very
like-
soon. They're very near.
Yeah, like they're very
events.
close together, but like what was the blow by blow? Because like my inclination would be to say like Reshafir shows up in Urithiru, everybody freaks out, they capture her, and then like they like abandon Urithiru and then capture Baidomishum.
Yeah.
But like the epigraphs from like last week, it seems like Baidomishum, like they were not sure if like they could even capture an Unmade.
Yeah.
Right.
So-
I'm just pulling up the quote right now. The epigraph 79 in Oathbringer says, "Our revelation is fueled by the theory that the Unmade can perhaps be captured like an ordinary spren. It would require a special prison and militia."
Yes.
And so they're talking about the
Oh.
strike team against
Yes.
Baidomishum there. So
because
like,
that's where Militia was about.
but
Yeah.
like, how close did these two imprisonments happen? Like, I guess pretty close together.
Yeah.
They must have been, yeah.
Slightly before, but right now in this gems, they clearly haven't captured Rishafir,
Yeah.
I guess, right?
This is like one thing like I want Brandon just to, like explain,
Yeah.
because like I don't see how he could like deal with this in the book that's not totally info dumpy. So it's like
Yeah.
just tell us.
Well, without epigraphs.
Because then on top of that, while all this stuff is also happening, we have the city shutting down, we have the sibling acting
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
Like, what in the world was going on? Like, I
And then
feel
Honor
honestly,
died
I
at some
feel
point.
really- I feel really bad for these last generation of Radiants who
Yeah.
are just everything is on fire.
Yeah,
Yep.
like
Pretty much.
3 generations before, like 1,000 years after the last desolation. We're doing easy wars against some singers who are being uppity with the whole us invading their homeland thing. But I don't think we have not finished talking about the recreants. Like, we have
No.
the cause, but the whole stuff with the last Radiance, clearly there is a lot going on
Yeah.
that we have no idea about.
Okay, we have one more bit about Reshafir from page 252. The Midnight Mother created monsters of shadow and oil, dark imitations of creatures she saw or consumed. Their description matches no spread I can find in modern literature.
That is indeed what she does. Yes,
Yes,
I can
we
confirm.
saw that pretty
Fun
much.
fact,
Oh.
if you go read Aether of Night, the Midnight Essences show up there, and Brandon stole it from that book and put it in here.
That is actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
But, you know,
So-
it's... Oh, and if you didn't know, guys, Rishafir was mentioned in one of the death rattles in Way of Kings. So
Mhm.
it's
Oh,
not a
was
new
she?
thing.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was mentioned as... we had a Coppermine article on her for a long time.
Ah, okay.
Maybe one of the Unmade. Had dark imitations. Okay. Probably Midnight Essence. Because it's midnight and midnight, so I guess,
Yeah.
yeah. So never expected to just see it in part 1 of Oathbringer. Like, oh, we're just
straight conversation.
Now.
Yeah.
Like, that thing mentioned one time in an epigraph of all things. Yep, we're just doing this right now. Okay. I guess.
That's Oathbringer in a nutshell. Yeah, we're just doing this.
Yeah,
we're answering this right now.
Yeah, we're just doing it right now.
Very short digression. It was amazing at Thanksgiving because my mom, my brother, and my stepsister's husband are all reading Oathbringer right now. And my brother, like, after like Thanksgiving dinner, was like, I got to the end of part 2, and I'm like, yeah, it was pretty crazy. Like, we're apparently doing this right now. I'm like, yep.
Yeah.
And so they were all reading it, but the other two, they haven't gotten through part 2 yet. But I expect some text messages from them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like, we're just doing this now. Okay, cool. We're just doing this right now.
Oh, before we move on from Reshafir, you know how we were talking about how great the names are for the Unmade?
Yeah.
It's clearly just a play on the word reshaper. And,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
We're like, oh, how very clever-ish.
Clever. Yeah. Well, now when you say it, now it just sounds dumb. But but I mean, maybe Brandon's like, let's put together syllables in weird ways to sound weird. But then Brandon's like, oh, it kind of is like reshaper. All right, that kind of fits. All right,
we'll just do that.
We'll just do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you want
now
to do the
we
last
move...
one, Ben?
Yeah, I'll do that. So on page 266 we have, it will not take a careful reader to ascertain I have listed only 8 of the Unmade here. Lore is confident there were 9, an unholy number, asymmetrical, and often associated with the enemy. On page 266 continues, I am certain there are 9 Unmade. There are many legends and names that I could have misinterpreted, conflating 2 Unmade into 1. In the next section, I will discuss my theories on this. And then the next section is on page 307,
which is way later than 266.
Yeah, it's a really big section.
Thank you very much.
If I'm correct and my research is true, then the question remains, who is the 9th Unmade? Is it truly Daigonathis? If so, could their actions have actually caused the complete destruction of Amia? And what a epigraph that one is!
Yeah. Because it's like, we've been hearing about the scoring of Amia since book 1.
Yes.
Dalinar knew of it. Pretty contemporary.
Mm-hmm.
It does seem like to me it was... Yeah.
It's contemporary.
And, like, we did start dipping our toes into that with the Kaza interlude.
Yes.
Where like the soulcaster who goes there. Because the soulcaster fabrials are from Amia.
Yes.
Which we found out in this book.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean?
Amia is cut off. All life on that island was
scoured,
destroyed.
Yeah.
And it's actively protected by the Sleepless.
Yes. And it's so odd because
there.
It's I think a comment from Navani during Words of Radiance, I cannot remember the exact quote, did sound like it was almost within lifetimes of the current cast, like their grandparents were kind of. It was very
definitely
very very
within
recent.
100 years, no more than 300.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah, that's where I'd say it.
I would say it's within living memory or just outside it.
Yeah. Like, when did the sealing occur? God, we gotta think about this, and we gotta do a podcast just spitballing stuff, because what is going on? I have absolutely no idea. But
we'll just have a podcast where we'll throw out random ideas.
I mean,
and
we gotta milk Oathbringer for a good 4 years, okay? Or at least 2 for Lost Metals. So we got some stuff to do.
And what does Daigonathis do if it completely destroyed all life on Amia?
Yes.
And
the title that is given to Daigonathis sometimes is the Black Fisher.
That's right.
And so that makes me feel like hooks are involved somehow. And maybe, because I can't think what else could be fishery.
Weren't hooks described with torturing heralds?
Yes, they were.
Yeah, right?
And so I wonder if it's kind of a hunting kind of... I don't know, something along those lines.
The thing that gets me is why is Brandon being so weird about Daigonathis? That is
Because
obviously
he
intentional.
can.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Yeah,
The Unmade
but
that calls
with
itself Diagonautis.
Kimorish, right? You can just say basically nothing. Kimorish, the Dust Mother. We don't.
Yeah.
Thanks, Hesse. But Diagonarthus is being particularly weird, which
Yes.
that must mean something.
Hesse throws up its status as a Unmade kind of up into the air. Like, is it an Unmade?
Yeah.
I do believe it is, because
I mean, we have a death rattle, so I'm pretty.
we have a death rattle, and we also have Yezrian. When Dalinar was off having a drink with him, Yezrian did ask, "Oh, has the Black Fisher got you?" And then proceeded to list off a couple of other Unmade.
Oh, I totally
Yeah.
forgot that. I really need to reread that now that we will not be hearing from Yezri.
Yeah, no.
Rip.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
that was
then
just
so-
in prologue of Words of Radiance, right?
Oh no, this is when this is the Dalinar flashback when Dalinar goes to have a
Oh,
drink with him.
yeah, right.
Yes.
No, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if Yezrian knows, it's clearly an
Yeah.
Unmade, but
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
why is it so weird? I don't understand.
Yeah. There's there's also the other death rattle, the death rattle that has the Blackfish of Diagonarthis in to say the whole let me have take my pain, take my sorrows, take my almost seems to be
Sounds
begging.
like we can go to the copper mine
Yeah.
to get the
Well,
exact
there's one that you posted in here as well, Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me no longer hurt. Let
This
me
is
no
the one,
longer
yes.
weep. Diagonarthus, the Black Fisher, holds my sorrow and consumes it.
Yes.
Well, that sounds an awful lot like Odium.
That
It really,
so
really
many
does.
things really does, like stealing emotions.
I wonder if
what
this
that's
is
about.
I wonder if they somehow the Unmade feed off emotions somehow. Like
Well, some probably do with
Well,
Yeah.
thrill
like
and stuff.
Spren,
right?
like normal Spren feed off of
True.
emotion,
They're
like-
attracted. to
yeah.
And not to mention, they are of Odium. Odium identifies as passion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I guess if you're like infused with a if you were a Spren,
Yeah.
a sapient Spren infused with a ridiculous amount of odious investiture,
Yeah.
you probably find emotion to be very interesting.
Mhm.
Which is kind of interesting because, like, with Janat, we don't really get that.
No, not at
But
all.
others we definitely get. And
It seems it
with-
might be the middle class Spren, or to the middle to lower class Spren, that have this kind of give me your emotions thing.
Well,
so-
I mean, we don't know.
Yeah.
Despite how much Unmade we saw,
Yeah.
which
We
was
still
a
know basically nothing.
ridiculous amount.
Yeah.
We don't really know anything about them. We know
Yeah.
what they do and that they are scary,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
about specific ones. How they came to be, what they're actually doing,
Who knows?
like
Like-
with Ba Eda Mishram, that's like really important. But Diagonarthus, it's important that it's mysterious. Like if you're thinking
Yes.
from Brandon as a writer, are we gonna
He's
have
hiding
some
something
horrible
there.
plot reveal that's like gonna blow our minds of something with Diagonarthus? With
Yeah.
Amia, I
Maybe.
guess.
Probably.
I mean,
Probably.
if it was
I mean,
connected with the genocide of an entire continent on Roshar, so
continent is excessive, but
I-
it's an island.
okay.
A subcontinent, maybe.
Subcontinent.
it's
a
the
big
New
island.
It's the New Zealand of Roshar, you know.
There you go. Where are the hobbits?
Yeah.
Diagonarthus is there to kill hobbits. Confirmed.
Yeah. They're hiding in the
Or
undersea
sheep.
tunnels.
Or sheep. Yes, both.
Yeah.
Both. The Black Fisher puts those hooks into the sheep to get the wool
Yes.
for Shadesmar, for the Void Spren in Shadesmar.
Yeah.
Nailed it. That's the theory. I'll make a forum post.
Yeah. I found one other thing that this one's a stretch that might connect Diagonarthus with something. We're given the
Okay.
names of two of the two Thunderclasts at Thalen City, and one of them is called Kai Garnis, with the dash after Kai. So,
Yeah, that's true.
like,
I saw that
so it-
because we just made a wiki article on that today.
there you go.
Yes.
And so
I
I'm
saw that.
wondering, whatever the origin of that Thunderclast, because the Thunderclasts are a whole other thing. But if the origin of that Thunderclast, why is it named similar to Diagonarthus? Are they connected in origin somehow? Who knows?
Mhm.
Diagonarthus, giant thunderclast.
Yeah.
Or is like Daigon Arthas not even unmade? Like
Yeah.
because Brandon has done a lot of like, oh, here's this thing there. It's so much in doubt, but like, nope, it's totally what it looks like.
Yeah.
as we
A
see
man
Tom.
named Tom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like, what if
Man
like
named
this is
Tom.
like him subverting that? It's just like, oh yeah, like this is totally probably an unmade, and then he's going to say,
And it turns out it's actually not.
unmade.
But then what would the ninth?
I have no
Very
clue, but
Stick.
So weird.
Or
I
Vivenna.
have faith in Brandon to make it awesome.
I mean, I assume maybe what this means. Here's writer brain going through here, right? We learn more about Bard and Mishra because we're gonna see her really soon, right?
Yes.
Right, Brandon. Whereas Daigon Arthas, we're not gonna see
Yeah.
him very soon, right?
Makes
Okay,
sense.
though, but knowing Brandon, he's probably gonna flip this. Like, we're probably
Yes.
gonna open
Chapter
book
1.
4 with Daigon Arthas.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Like,
No, we're gonna have the exact scene that Ian described, where it's gonna be like a Spren gathering, and one of them, like some woman's gonna turn up, and everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, it's Barry to Mistrum," and then she's like, "I'm Daigon Arthas."
yeah.
You never know.
That was my theory, not Ian's. Thank you very much.
Oh,
Ben.
sorry.
Also, we mentioned earlier about some of these things, like the Unmade, having been multiple things at some point. What if that's the case with Daigon Arthas, and that's why it seems like there's more than one, like there's more than 9 Unmade? It's just that they're catching the early lore before they were merged, basically.
There's
Yeah.
got to be something
There's
really weird
also,
with the hyphenation.
On the Shadesmar map that we get
Uh-huh.
in this book, there is one of the cities. It's Spren fishing is outlawed here. What is Spren fishing? Does Daigon Arthas have anything to do with that?
Especially for the sheep.
Him and his hooks. Ah.
Yeah, that's a good question. If anybody's going to a signing and you haven't thought of a question to ask yet, why don't you ask what Spren fishing is?
Oh boy, would you look at that? I've got one coming right up.
Yeah. This podcast is in the future after that signing occurred, but I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's true. But
Yeah, I
That's a
totally
good
remember
question.
asking
You could-
that.
yeah. That's a good question though, because it's you got to ask the questions. Pro tip, guys, you got to ask the questions that aren't like super Raffo bait, because the Raffo bait ones are just Raffoed.
Yeah.
You got to be
Yeah.
clever, make it seem like it's reasonable and not important to answer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Get as close to the Raffo line as you can get without crossing it.
Yes.
And be specific. You got to
Yes.
be specific too.
Be
but like,
specific.
what is Spren fishing? That seems
Also,
just
like,
so
give
innocuous.
context.
Yeah.
Give context, because Brandon doesn't remember everything.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know, like, what the fandom is talking about sometimes.
I don't know. Well, some things certainly, but other things he definitely remembers. He'd probably know what Spren fishing is if it's
Probably.
put on a map. This is probably not one of those Isaac things where it's like, I'm doing a map and I'm drawing something cool. Brandon, what do you think? Oh, looks good. That's sometimes what happens. With
Oh, I like this thing about Spren fishing.
Quick aside note here, Eric. When you had your book, you had a book signed by Brandon, and you asked for the intent of a shard, and Brandon trolled you. Didn't he write passion?
that is true. He did do that. I think.
No, he
Oh,
didn't.
wow.
I think. Yeah. No. Well,
That is wonderful.
actually, no. That wasn't Brandon. That was Josh. That doesn't
That
mean
was
anything.
Josh. But Josh wrote it on Brandon's instructions.
Ah.
Josh writes a lot of weird things, but then yeah, I'll have to find that book. But that is certainly true. That's not. Yeah.
But, like, if,
That's
if
wonderful.
any fan knew that, like,
I think Josh. I remember Josh telling me about this because I didn't see that it was a giant troll and that the actual answer was later in the book, because it was like just randomly in the middle of the book. And Josh was like, no, I think Passion would be a really great shard name. I don't think he actually knew that we already have that with Odium. I don't think he did that, because I think this was like Alloy. It was quite a few years
Yeah.
ago.
Wow, that's a while
I-
ago,
I would-
yeah.
I'm just imagining Brandon though, like seeing what Josh wrote.
That's probably, yeah. It's like, oh yeah, Passion. Yeah, that's definitely a different shard.
It's like
Because
at
that's what
the
Brandon sounds like.
It's like that word from the Oathbringer signing where someone asked what Hoyd's favourite spren is, and he said cryptic.
Well, he said patterns.
Yeah, he said patterns.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said patterns. That was pretty great. But no, that's where we learned about the survival shard, which, while we're on this tangent, guys, do not call that shard survival.
With a
Call it
capital
survival
S.
shard. It is not named survival. Definitely not.
Or just call it wisdom, because that's totally what it is.
No, it's not. You're just making that up. Just like every shard's a dragon, Ian. We know your biases.
I still think it's
I have
purity.
theories about this. The survival shard is wisdom.
What did you think it was, Kerry?
It's like,
I still think it's purity.
That makes sense, actually.
Well,
No,
there
it's
is
clearly
something
Unity,
going
guys.
weird. Unity, yeah. So there's going to be 2 shards named Unity. But, I don't know. Just, if you list the shards and you list survival with it, you're wrong. You should, preface it to make sure it says something else. And that's why I've always called it the survival shard. And that,
Yes.
because it's tangentially related, but is not the name.
And never
or
capitalize
give
the
it a
shard
real
who wants
name.
to hide and survive.
Yeah.
We're really passionate about this, you guys.
Don't get me started on the capitalization of intent. Ah, rage.
No, it's the shard that calls itself survival.
No, it isn't.
The shard formerly known as survival.
No, none of this is true. I hate all of you. You're all banned.
It's making a Prince reference.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know lyrics. I don't.
It's
Even
not
I knew.
a lyric, Eric.
I don't know. I don't know these things.
Hashtag Kaswanawa.
I don't know these things.
Wow, you
So,
guys are right. Eric
I-
does make big mistakes sometimes.
I think that's a sign that we're pretty much talked out for
When
the
we start
moment.
talking about Prince.
You can follow us on, of course, 17thshard.com, on SoundCloud, Facebook, and Twitter, all at their various URLs /17thshard.
And YouTube.
And YouTube.
And YouTube.
Sub on YouTube.
You can reach us at individually on Twitter as well. I've put our Twitter handles up on the screen, or on the episode article. And yeah, that's it. Tune in next time where we talk about Harmony only knows what.
I think. Yeah, I don't know. Actually, we
should figure
probably
that out.
talk about it. We'll talk about that real quick after this.
Yeah.
So bye.
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 Call.